So, the War Within, almost finished. The beginning of a brand new saga, and somehow we still end up right back where we started. Let me put it this way, we begin with Xal'atath turning Dalaran into a personal USB charger, and we end up on another planet killing a void god so she can keep charging the same battery. A side quest Blizzard accidentally stretched into an expansion. If you don't feel attached to anyone in this story, it's because there's nothing to attach to. The War Within feels like the prequel DLC for Midnight. It's one long previously on World of Warcraft. There's no major shift, no irreversible decision, no payoff for the setup. Xal'atath starts powerful and ends more powerful. The world starts threatened and ends still threatened. Illyria still chasing Xal'atath, Anduin still recovering, and Khadgar is now sitting in a purple wheelchair. The plot just doesn't move. The whole expansion feels like Blizzard is clearing its throat before the real story starts. And that's what's so frustrating to me. The pieces are all great, the zones are stunning, the music absolutely slaps, the lore is rich, but story-wise, you're moving but you're not going anywhere. And I understand, it's supposed to be a trilogy. This is just the first part of the World Soul Saga, but come on, this is literally the safest story Blizzard ever wrote. As if they were afraid people won't just stick long enough to buy Midnight. By the end, I didn't feel like I'd reached a conclusion. I felt like I'd finished a very expensive beta test. Remember that cinematic reveal with Anduin and Thrall, hinting the main characters we all love will return and have a big role? Yeah. Enjoy it on YouTube because that's basically the last time they matter. Thrall shows up once, trains a few birds, gives a pep talk and disappears faster than an enhancement shaman in the DPS meters. Anduin spends half the expansion looking spiritually constipated in Hellfall, then quietly fades into the background. Jaina teleports in, says we'll face this together, and Blizzard apparently took that line as literal instruction to remove her from every future scene. For an expansion supposedly about the heart of Azeroth and the heroes who defend it, the actual heroes barely exist in the story. They're like guest stars. By the end, you kind of only care about two people, Illyria and Xal'atath, and that's mostly because they're the only two people who actually do anything. Illyria's arc, torn between void and light, still works, but it's the same song she's been singing since Legion, but now she's just hunting Xal'atath. Meanwhile, Xal'atath has single-handedly carried the entire expansion's dramatic weight. Every meaningful moment exists because she decided to make something happen, and I'm honest, I think she's the best character in this whole expansion. She's the villain, the instigator, and the literal plot, and the only character with consistent motivation. And here we go. Farin Lothar, a new Arathi leader who's clearly meant to be inspiring. One-eyed, one-armed, a warrior of faith and resolve. And I guess she could have been great. But she's written like a political checkbox, not a person. Everything about her screams, hey, I'm here because of an agenda. This works when it serves the story. But replace her look with a general NPC from Hellfall and you'd have the same impact. I'm honest. When I saw her in the game, the trailers even, I knew exactly why she was there. To serve an agenda. And really, that doesn't make for good storytelling. It literally takes you out of the immersion and the fantasy of the entire game. Especially her questline in Arathi Highlands. That rubbish might be the worst story I've ever seen in my entire life. You know what I'm talking about. It was trending on Twitter when it came out. Strong, stoic, disabled woman of color fights for the light. And yet there's no humanity there, no conflict, no flaw. Her entire existence revolves around helping Anduin with his intoxication. That's her function, to support his emotional arc. And the irony is, Blizzard clearly wanted her to stand alone as a symbol of strength. But as I said before, when you write a symbol with no meaning, the symbol breaks the moment it's not needed. Now Khadgar sits in a wheelchair because Blizzard apparently wanted to make sure everyone got to feel represented, even in a world where people resurrect dragons with sparkly dust. We literally live in a universe with Lightforged space goats and demons, but the Archmage who can spam a big arcane blast can't regrow his limbs back. Come on. It's less representation and more confusing design choice. If you're going to age your heroes, fine. Show them the cost of their battles and the sacrifice that made them this way. But don't suddenly pretend the setting obeys physics just for a moral checkbox. And as I said before, I honestly think War Within is the safest story Blizzard told in years. We fix the Earthen, but nothing really happens. We liberate the Nerubians, but nothing really happens. We stop Dementius, but surprise, nothing really happens. It's like Blizzard's terrified of closing any door, as if resolution might make the next expansion harder to write. And that's so sad to me. World of Warcraft used to take risks, Arthas, Illidan, even Garrosh to some extent. Now everything feels like it's in bubble wrap. The stakes don't stick. Azeroth's still crying, Xal'atath still plotting, and the story just keeps buffering. The War Within is trying way too hard to be mythic, when it desperately needed to be personal. Every bit of dialogue feels like it's reaching for some grand cosmic revelation, but none of it feels human. It's all, well, so this, Titan archives that, and I'm just sitting there thinking, cool, but who actually gives a damn? The reason we fell in love with Warcraft's story in the first place wasn't because of this, it was because of characters. Arthur's worked because we watched him crumble one decision at a time. Thrall mattered because we struggled with him, with the idea of being both a slave and a savior to his people. Even Illidan, the guy who literally shouted, "You're not prepared," had heart. He believed in what he was doing, even when everyone hated him for it. Those stories stuck because they felt like people making impossible choices. Now, The War Within spends 90% of its runtime explaining history lessons about titans, archives, and machine people. It's like very impressive, but it's also emotionally empty. Nobody breaks, nobody sacrifices, nobody questions themselves. They just recite exposition like NPCs giving you quests. I think that's why the expansion feels kind of hollow. You're told that Azeroth is dying, that her soul is screaming and the void is coming, but you never actually feel it. No one you care about is suffering because of it. You just hear Magni shout, "She's hurting, lad," for the 1000th time and move on. It's all myth, not meaning. Don't get me wrong, I like the lore, but lore alone doesn't make you feel anything. World of Warcraft isn't about Dark Souls, where by the end of it you feel confused and binge watch VatiVidya videos to comprehend what happened and what it actually means. And it kinda hurts me because Blizzard can do better, and I know it. Moments that made you pause, even as a player, and go, damn, that was insane. There are moments like these here, but not so many, apart from the opening cinematic where Xal'atath blows up Dalaran, her shooting the Dark Heart, breaking it, to Dementia's death. Really, there isn't much. And the only character that I actually cared about besides Illyria and Xal'atath was Venari. She was cool. She kind of felt a bit different from Shadowlands, and that gave her more depth. And her storyline with Koresh was kind of amazing. I give Blizzard props to that. And this is where I land. The War Within looks incredible. I like Isle of Dawn, Hallowfall, and Koresh is stunning. But Ashkahet, Undermine, and Ringing Deeps are just kind of there. Undermine is a big goblin city with loads of checkboxes, cars, and it looks cool, but it feels so disconnected from the entire expansion. When you open the map, it feels like a Ubisoft game. Every zone emotionally, it's kind of hollow. You don't really care about any character here, because really, Blizzard didn't give us good characters to work with. We start with Xal'atath absorbing magic, glaring at her feet, and end up with Xal'atath absorbing magic, glaring at her feet. The new faces feel plastic, and the story refuses to take risks. It's not a bad expansion. It's probably one of the better ones they've done in a while. It's just one that's terrified of being cool. I think Blizzard forgot that setup isn't story. I hope Midnight will be better. It kind of looks better. We're returning to the old world and kind of feels like the story will pick up the pace. If you liked the video, hit subscribe. It helps more people find the channel and lets me know I'm not screaming into the void alone. Thanks for watching. And may your next expansion actually have consequences.